This episode of Real Garbage is brought to you by fake news. Donald Trump is dead.
I wish. This episode is also brought to you by rickrolling yourself in your car. Never gonna give you up.
Never gonna let you down. This is Real Garbage. I've been wearing a hat a lot.
Really?
My hair is getting long. Well, it's getting not like long, but it's getting longer. But it's at the point where it's parting itself now. So I've been check this out. So I've been like having it over this way for a long time, but now it's just doing this on its own. I got like my boy band hair. I'm getting the boys back together.
Getting the band back together.
What's up? You're going back to work soon, though. Your quarantine is almost coming to an end.
I know. I'm still kind of like worried about it just because like I know like me and my family and like the people that are in my close circle like take it seriously. But there are so many people that are like whatever still and just don't give a shit. And now going back into the workforce with like potential to be around those people, I'm like, fuck, second wave, here we fucking come.
Well, we're going to be okay. I heard the numbers today, and we only had like 115 to 125 cases on the island. Yeah, and we haven't had a new case in like 12 days. We're good. Yeah. So as long as
the people stay in fucking Vancouver.
Yeah, as long as they don't start pumping people over here on the ferries and letting them fly in here and open the borders anytime soon. Yeah, we'll be all right for the summer, I think. No cruise ships coming in. No. Keep them away. Yeah, they're disgusting even without COVID.
I know.
We don't need them. Well, the tourism industry does, and the service industry does. So there's going to be, downtown's going to be suffering a little bit.
Yeah.
I think everyone that was locked up is obligated
to go and fucking get wild.
Oh, God. Yes.
And make up for it.
Yeah. Like I won't because I haven't been like confined here because I've been working. So, but go nuts. Go out and go nuts.
I
support your local beverage providers.
So we started like quarantining, self-isolating on March 17th. So St. Patrick's Day was taken away from people, kind of. Yeah. And my birthday was 3 days later and like had a quarantine birthday as well as like a few other people I know. So my friend Ellen and I, who have the same birthday and we always celebrate together, we decided that as soon as like phase 3 hits and like clubs reopen, we're officially not 25 yet. We're still 24 because we haven't been able to celebrate. And then when we are able to go and get wild, it's going to be so messy.
I wonder when clubs will open and which ones will be the first to open. Upstairs, probably.
And District.
Ugh. Clubs.
Yeah.
I went to a club 3 years ago. I'm 37. I'm 37 years old. I don't go to clubs. Yeah. I haven't gone to a club since I was like 27.
It's like a couple time a year thing for me.
It's a weird. It's like a time warp walking into one.
I know.
It was weird. Everybody was too sweaty and
too young looking.
Oh my God.
Even when I go in there, like I'm like, oh, I feel like an old lady.
I felt like an uncle.
Yeah, like dad. Those creepy single drunk uncles that are like,
I don't want to be here. Like I get one beer and I'm like looking around like, get me out of here.
See, for me, the draw for like still going to like bars and clubs is if I just like get in the mood to dance, I'm like, I don't even care if I go to like the like dirty district. I just want to go and like have a good time with my friends and dance and, you know.
I just dance in my living room.
Well, sometimes that doesn't cut it for me. That's what I was doing today. Like I was in my bathroom and I was cleaning and I was just like listening to feel good music. And then like a club banger song came on and I was like, fuck, I really want to go.
Well, those are always good in the car. My buddy Tyler's been sending me some like dancier tracks. I think he's playing a lot of Forza or something. He's like, check this one out. Most of the time, they're pretty good songs, but a couple times I'm like, man, I feel like I should be jumping a snowmobile over a 60-foot jump while I'm listening to this. Like, what the fuck is this? Boom, like just dubsteppy and stuff. I'm like, all right, cool, man.
Surprisingly, I like speaking of like going ham and wild. When Brandon and I went to Vegas, we did not get super wild.
No,
we never made it to. We were like old people.
It's too hot out here.
Yeah, it was hot because
like
we went in
44
August.
degrees. Oh my god.
Yeah, it was so hot.
So hot in Vegas.
So hot. But like our first day there, when we checked into our hotel, the pool of the hotel was on the roof, and they were having like a party, and there was a DJ. So it was. We went to the club up there as soon as we checked in, but the water was so hot. It was like bath water.
Ugh.
And we were like, yuck. And like the drinks were super expensive, obviously. And
aren't yours usually free? You're a girl in Vegas.
No, with her boyfriend.
Yeah, but you just leave him at the pool.
I'm like, babe, stay in the bath water.
That's what I've heard. Anyway, you just stay there. I'm gonna get us some drinks.
It's when I was in Vegas with my girlfriend Morgan a few years ago, we got free drinks left and right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it doesn't work when you go there with your boyfriend.
Yeah, so you just gotta plan
And
ahead.
you want to know how I know that? Because I went to the bar by myself to go get us drinks, and I was wearing a thonkini, and nobody offered to buy me drinks. And it was like, it's like they have, like, the guys in Vegas have a radar, like, yeah, her boyfriend's over there.
They're respectful? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe because I look happy. They're like, she looks too happy.
Those guys are just pieces of shit.
I know. We went to Fremont Street and we're walking around, and then the peak of like the trip for both of us was going to the Mob Museum in Fremont Street, and it's like government run, so everything that is displayed there and talked about is legit. Like, and it was so cool. You learned about so many different mobsters and how like they basically built Vegas. And one of them you learned about is John Gotti.
John Gotti.
Boom.
He was. Did you research John Gotti at all before we watched this? Because I wikied him. I Googled him. I was like Wikipedia, and it's just like he was a mobster in New York in the 70s. He became head of the Gambino crime family, and then he died in prison after getting 5 life sentences. This is a pretty cut and dry story.
Yeah, he was one of the like main mobsters that Brandon and I learned about at the museum when we went there. But it's so wild, just the mob in general. Like the government inadvertently started the mob. Like
the government's behind everything.
Yeah,
the government.
Conspiracy!
Put your tinfoil hat on.
Yeah, no, but like when the government voted in prohibition, that's what started like the mob,
organized crime. Basically.
Yes, yeah, that's like the government's responsible for organized crime. Like,
and it wasn't
how
like
fucking ironic.
They probably knew it was going to happen. I don't know.
They were probably like, it'll happen, but we can control it.
I'm sure there's probably a conspiracy out there where it's like, we had to create organized crime to make sure that we could keep the people in fear of organized crime so we could do things behind the scenes. Like it's, that's the crazy thing. We can get deep in conspiracy shit.
Yeah.
Like who knows? My mom and I she loves talking conspiracies and I just listen. But some of the shit that like people conspire about is insane. I love that. I told you about the 5G tower.
Yes.
That was ridiculous.
Oh, God.
And thank you for that explanation that they operate on the same frequency as microwaves.
Yeah.
So they're not giving you coronavirus.
Like they have softer frequencies than AM and FM radio.
Well, and I would like to think that our technology is getting to the point where we can create things that don't blast us with waves of energy.
Radiation.
Stuff in the 50s and 60s, sure. Like, you living under power lines? Like, yeah, if you live under power lines, you can see how this would take a toll on someone. But you're hearing something like when we've had 3G and 4G for the last 15 years, like 3G for 15 years. Like, I remember getting my first smartphone, first iPhone in 2006 or 7. So at least 13 years. Weird. And I don't really think that they fucking affect us at all.
No.
We keep our phones in our pockets.
Yeah.
We carry them around like we're just brainwashed by them. That's all.
I know.
They're not. I don't think they're giving us cancer or whatever people think that they're giving us. Yeah. Coronavirus.
Oh God.
It's some insane. It's some insane conspiracies though. The lizard people went under Antarctica is interesting. And there's one guy that claims he's seen people blink sideways. Like there's actually lizard people.
Okay.
And they're in charge of everything. They're in charge of the world. They're running the world. The lizard people. We could be lizard people. We don't know.
That'd be cool.
Be interesting.
I hate like sitting in the sunlight though. So I don't think I'm a lizard person.
Okay. Yeah, so I put Gotti on the list. I didn't even look up the ratings on it before I put it on my list.
There's a Rotten Tomatoes ratings conspiracy with this movie.
There absolutely is. Because I started watching, I got 10, because you told me, you're like, I'm watching Gotti and I don't hate it.
Yeah.
John Travolta's actually doing a good job. I'm like, interesting.
Huh, weird.
So I got, John Travolta's acting well?
What?
No. This isn't Broken Arrow or Face Off.
Or, what was the alien? Battlefield Earth.
Ugh.
My brain said Battlestar Galactica, and I was like, that's not it.
Don't you ever speak ill of Battlestar. So I put this on the list because I heard it was terrible. Mm-hmm. I heard John Travolta did a shitty job. Mm-hmm. I heard Gotti's family hates Travolta and hated the movie. And then I start watching it. I get 10 minutes in. I'm like, well, it's okay. And I look up the ratings. I'm like, 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, 82 from the viewers. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh shit. And then, but I only got a 4.8 on IMDb, which is pretty low. That's the first score that I saw. So I'm already like, it's going to suck. Then I see the 82% from the viewers. I'm like, what?
And then in doing my classic movie research, John Gotti's family sought out John Travolta for the role.
Really?
They were the ones that were like, we want John Travolta to play this role. So,
well, you know what I thought? Because I'm looking at pictures of him as I'm watching this. He looked more like Dan Aykroyd. In a lot of his pictures, he kind of had like a happy head. He had dimples, but so like Travolta had Travolta's dimples looked fake.
Yeah,
they looked make-upped in.
Apparently, he supplied his own wigs for the role.
Really?
Yeah.
He's just got a trunk full of just wise guy wigs. Hey, over here, put that wig on over there.
I looked into John Travolta's background and
he's a wise guy.
Yeah. I think like his dad is Italian and his mom is Irish. And I was like, two mafias.
Whoa.
The Irish mob and the Italian mob.
The Italian Catholic.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it was. I was very surprised. Mm-hmm. But to me, like, I love Martin Scorsese movies.
Yeah.
And
wait, this was him?
No.
Oh,
no,
okay.
No.
I was like,
because
that didn't seem like it.
This movie overall was just the story was all over the place. Mm-hmm. They jumped back and forth in time a lot.
Yeah.
And
they didn't clarify what time period it was until eventually you saw a character and you were like, oh.
Yeah, because they started off, they're like 99, 73. Mm-hmm. And then it was like 74, he's locked up and he's like arguing with his wife. Like, he's never going to be a cop. You don't even think about being a cop.
Don't let my son dress up as a cop.
Jesus Christ, he's going to be a cop for Halloween. You never fucking speak of cops. Like, holy shit, good parenting. But the jumping back and forth, the thing that confused me the most of this movie, because you could keep track of him and young John, but it was that they didn't really make it clear who the other characters were through the time. And there were a lot of characters, a lot of names, a lot of muffled talk down here about stuff going on here. And I found it, I had to turn the subtitles on at 35 minutes in. I should have started with them on because I missed a lot. So this movie kind of jumps back and forth between him becoming a made man, and then back to 99 where he's in prison with cancer, talking to his son because his son's now the boss. The son's been in jail for a while at this point. His son's saying he wants to cop a plea so he can finish serving his sentence and get the fuck out of prison so he can be with his family. And Gotti's not having it.
Yeah, Gotti's like, you don't take a fucking plea.
And that the way they did that part of the story, it was kind of cool because they didn't reveal all that till the end.
Yeah.
And you're like, because I'm like, why the hell is Gotti so pissed off at his son? Like, look, he's locked up. He's locked up. Do you want your son to be like that too? But I didn't realize, like, it's because he's in charge now.
Yeah.
And I actually should have known that because I read it on Wikipedia. And it was like later on his son took over. I'm like, shit. Well, I missed that.
Even before I
burnt the back of my fucking legs at work yesterday.
Oh, like sunburned?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
shorts all day. And then I wore shorts again today. I put sunblock on, though.
Good.
But they're still, like, sitting. I'm trying not to move this leg because it's just going to hurt.
Ooh, ow.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Oh, God.
like I'm a huge true crime buff, TV, movies, docs, books, podcasts, anything. And there's something about the mob that's like so fascinating to me and also like obviously scary to a point where like I won't say anything bad about it. Like
I was thinking that through while I was watching this last night, making notes, and I'm like, nah, fuck this guy. And I'm like, man, there's gonna be some mobster listening to this going, hey, where do these guys live?
We're gonna bump them off.
Where's this Brentwood Bay they keep talking about?
Yeah.
We're gonna whack them. Mm-hmm. Fucking pod, whatever. Fucking hosting.
But like the mentality of the mob is so interesting and unique with regards to criminality, because regular criminals that are like robbers, thieves, burglars, murderers, you know, nobody is exempt. Whereas in the mob and being organized crime, they only go after like each other and like opposing mobs. Like they don't fuck with civilians. They don't fuck with people's families and their crime family. Like it's respectable. And they're very, like, keen on and family oriented and, like...
Is that why they call it organized crime?
Yeah, because it's organized against each other.
I never really thought of that, why they call it organized crime. I'm sure, like, it's organized because they're like, this is going to go here, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. That's your section, this is our section. Yes, that makes perfect sense. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, but it's just...
It is cool. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it's kind of like Pablo Escobar, like down, like the cartel, same fucking thing. And it's like, he's doing a lot of good. He's killing bad guys. They'd murder innocent people too.
Communities...
Well, not all the time.
The community loved John Gotti. And like when he died, hundreds of people were like lining the street and being interviewed by the media, and they were like, he was a good guy, he did a lot for the neighborhood.
Yeah,
like,
they played a lot of those clips in the movie.
And that's something I liked about the movie is they incorporated real live news footage from that time.
There's only one shot where you actually saw John Gotti, like himself, and everything else was Travolta.
But yeah, like organized crime is so interesting to me because you kind of like, in a weird way, have some sort of level of respect for the mob because they don't target civilians. Like it's just each other.
Well, plus you can't disrespect them.
Oh, fuck
because
no.
they will whack you.
Yeah. But
there's no like, fuck you, buddy. It's like, no, he's a made man.
Yeah.
Shouldn't do that.
And like the mob's been like that for decades. Like in the mob museum, we were talking to like curators, and we were like, one of our Uber drivers that day when they picked us up, they were like, oh, like what'd you do today? Blah, blah, blah. And we told our Uber driver about the mob. And the general consensus between like the museum volunteers and the Uber driver was that the mob, when they ran Vegas, it was way better run than it is now. Like our Uber driver, he was probably 50s to 60s. So he was like alive and in Vegas, like peak mob time. And he was like, when Vegas when the mob ran Vegas, you could come in and get like a huge dinner buffet with steaks and lobster for $5. And the mob would take care of you. Like if you didn't have enough, they'd be like, whatever, more the merrier type of thing. Whereas now it's super like expensive and stingy. And yeah, our Uber driver was like, Vegas was a lot better when the mob was running it. It's just, if you borrowed money from them, you had to give it back.
Oh yeah.
And you had to treat them with respect. And I'm like, fuck, that'd be so fucking cool.
Be cool and unnerving at the same time.
It'd be terrifying. I would not borrow money or gamble from anyone at all.
Well, just think though, if you're drunk in a casino, you're on a heater, and all of a sudden you're like, boom, snake eyes, and like shit, and there's some smoking babe that's been hanging on your arm all night. It's like, oh, come on, doll, I can give you $1,000 for this one. Just pay me back later. And you lose her $1,000, and all of a sudden she's like, Donnie, he owes me $1,000. And then Johnny's like, I'm going to fucking break your legs. You don't pay. And then like, you owe us. And then you're in their fucking pocket.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Yeah.
That would just be, that would be kind of spooky. That's all.
But $5 dinner buffet with lobster and
I guess, and like,
steaks.
it's not going to be shit quality steak and lobster either.
It's going to be like,
the fuck is lobster coming? Lobster coming from? What coast are they getting that from? The East Coast, I guess.
I hope so.
Fucking even flying that shit and feeding a bunch of people in a buffet. That's a lot.
I know.
That's so much money.
Yeah, I just think it's so like interesting and weird that people genuinely were like, yeah, the mob ran Vegas great. The mob treated people that weren't opposing mobsters great.
They flash back and forth a bunch of times. Back to 74, sounds Kitty ain't gonna be a cop. Back to 99, then 79. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this movie's jumping around a lot.
The one thing I didn't like was John Travolta breaking the fourth wall at the very beginning, and he was like, in the mob, you either go to jail or you die. And I did both. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, that was when I watched it first, where I started laughing and I was like, I gotta stop this and put it on the list. Because that opening scene, was cheesy
makes you
as
think
fuck.
It's gonna be bad.
Yeah. And then actually, you read the reviews and you're like, oh, Travolta puts on a good performance, but that
I'm like, does he?
yeah, that little opening thing, and then they tuck it in at the end too, and you're like, just don't even
Just don't break the fourth wall.
Open with a news story like John Gotti, one of the most notorious mobsters, the head of the Gambino family, blah, 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 and he did this and this, and then like, okay, cool, then we know who he is, and then bam, opening scene. Yeah. Because that like probably soured it for a lot of people.
Oh, totally. People were probably like, this is stupid.
Like us John Travolta haters, like they turn on like, nope, it's garbage, it's terrible.
But yeah, apparently, Gotti's eldest son and daughter were like consultants on this movie and were like on set all the time. Like,
it's a good idea.
Yeah, and apparently they even used a lot of Gotti's like accessories and clothing. Like that tweed jacket John Travolta's wearing in the beginning, that gray one when he breaks the fourth wall, that was like Gotti's jacket. And John Travolta was like, in my trivia, I found out that he was like, it was really eerie because it still smelled like his cologne that he wore all the time. And like thinking about that, I'm just like, holy shit. Like,
how much cologne did you put on that jacket?
He's Italian, probably a lot.
He died in 2002.
And this was made in 2018, and his jacket still smelled like his cologne. That's wild. They also don't
washed it in it.
They don't make cologne like they used to. It's crazy how much power the mob had and has that, three guys walk into a bar and shoot this fourth guy there, and he like looks at the bartender and he's like, put that down.
Yeah. Sit down.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
And like, that's it. Like, fuck. I mean, if that were me and someone came into the bar and did that and someone was put down that fucking phone, I'd be like, oh my God, okay.
I wouldn't even be grabbing the phone.
I wouldn't either. I'd be like,
okay, I'll wait till you guys leave.
Yeah, I'm like,
I was talking to somebody the other day and they're like, man, if somebody pulled a gun on me, I'd just run. I'm like, I wouldn't run. There's no way you would run.
No.
Like, they can shoot you while you're running away.
Yeah.
I would totally just be like, okay, what do you want? Why are you pointing a gun at me?
Yeah.
I'll give you, I use my phone. It's a piece of shit Samsung. You can have it.
And then doing research, apparently the Gambino family was the last known activity that I found on Wikipedia was 2014. Because after John Gotti went down, apparently like half of the families made men.
They showed that at the end.
Yeah.
The end of the movie.
But yeah, apparently the Gambino family was like still active even in 2014.
Oh, no doubt. Like you can't, no matter how many people you arrest, you're never going to arrest everyone. And there's always going to be someone who's like, we're keeping the family name alive.
Yeah.
And they start murdering other people and recruiting people. Like that's the crazy thing about gangs. Yeah. Is they're always recruiting. They're always growing. They never just disappear. There's always someone out there that's like, I'm keeping the name of this gang alive.
Yeah.
I wonder how New York's doing without all the garbage on the street being picked up by the mob. Because that's kind of that's from what I've heard anyway, is like how it works. The garbage company is run by the mob and they pick up all the garbage. Now all the garbage hasn't been piling up on the street. And we're talking about the rat wars. Yeah. So all the rats are fighting each other and eating each other because they don't have a steady food source and garbage on the street. So I'm like, what's the mob doing right now? Are they quarantined?
That's a good question.
Like, what do you do? Like, what do you do when your job is crime?
Yeah.
And everybody's at home. And you're like, well, I guess we got to sit inside and wait. They're playing cards and hanging out with their families, I guess.
Yeah. That's a good question. Like, what
what does the mob do in quarantine?
Like,
I guess they would if you're a criminal. You're like, oh shit.
Or maybe
you just change the crime.
Maybe low key, like, still going about the city. Because if you think about it, like, New York was hit really hard with COVID, and all the frontline workers, like nurses, doctors, paramedics, EMTs, police officers, are probably really stretched thin right now. So there's obviously most likely still got to be some ties between police and the mob, like we saw in this movie and back in the day. Maybe not as like
not as
shadily
prevalent.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would think that they would still be trying to get protection money from certain companies, like certain businesses, and all those small businesses aren't getting enough money from the government to pay the mobsters. So there's probably a lot of people like, I can't pay you, and they're getting their knees broken and
Maybe.
feet put in cement boots. Oh, back to Vegas. How many dead bodies do you think are outside of Vegas in the desert?
Oh, fuck.
Jesus.
Probably a lot.
I was thinking that earlier. I'm like, I wonder how many people are buried in the desert.
That's something I thought about because Brian wanted to go on a tour of like the Hoover Dam, and it would require us to like leave the city and like go in the desert.
It's like an hour and a half out or 2 hours outside of Vegas, isn't it?
Yeah, and
Gotta get to Harleys. You gotta ride the Harleys out there.
I'd be down for that. I don't think he would.
No?
I don't think he's ridden a dirt bike, but I don't think he'd ride like a motorcycle.
Once you get on your first motorcycle, it's either you love it and you fall in love with it, or you hate it and you're like, no, I don't want to do this.
I was really stupid the first time I was on a motorcycle. I wasn't like driving it, obviously, but one of my friends got one, and he like took me for a rip on it, and like I had a helmet on, but I just had my jacket, and like hindsight, I'm like, if something happened, like my skin would be gone, you fucking dumbass.
Well, yeah. Well, you just think like, I'm going to get on there. There was a couple times I was an idiot when I had a crotch rocket. I rode the thing in shorts and flip-flops like a...
Jeff!
Yeah. I was 23 or 24. I was stupid. It was so dumb. No, I was 21. God, that was 15 years ago. So I was 22. Holy shit. Wow. It's 2020 already.
Yuck. Side note, speaking of 2020, do you remember how like at the end of 2019 people were like 2020 is going to be such an awesome year?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
2020 is my year.
We're 5 months in and we're like, fuck this year.
2020 is, we're never going to speak of it again after this.
No.
I have basically just resolved to
It's a write-off year.
Wait till 2021 for all my resolutions. I'm like, fuck it.
Yep.
This is the rest of the year's a write-off. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm done. Well, we're still podcasting.
2020 is like the worst year.
I don't like this whole like it's a good idea to go back in phases, but I don't even want to go places having to like wear masks and social distance. It's like it's silly. And it's like I was saying to someone yesterday that how quickly do you think it's going to get out of hand or in hand when people start drinking at a bar? Like,
that's what I'm worried about because especially not with
look at places like the Warehouse downtown. You can't move around that place without touching people. You can't.
Yeah.
The space between the bar seats and the wall is 3 feet. There's no way you could open places like that, which really sucks. And you couldn't go there.
And even with like bars that are reopening in town and around like here closer to home, there are those like niche group of people that think like I can do whatever I want. I spend so much money here, blah, blah, blah. Like I'm just like picturing those types of people coming to an establishment and getting drunk and like getting rowdy. And especially if like restaurants are putting into place time allotted, like you can't be in the bar longer than 2 hours. You know, I'm just imagining the policing that's gonna have to be done.
I'm staying away from every place for the. I'm liking this total isolation, but liking this quiet time. Yeah. I'm gonna keep it going.
Yeah.
Oh man, so Gotti's kid dies. So this I was confused about. So this kid gets hit by a car.
Yeah.
Then they go and murder the guy that ran him over. So like, was it a hit on his kid? Because they never explained that.
Because
the
guy that hit his kid, he was like, it was an accident. The sun was in my eyes. And then Gotti himself like said to his older son, John Gotti Jr., he was like, it was an accident. Like, it was a complete accident. It happened. And then his wife, because he was a neighbor, I guess, and like he still had his car and he had the dent in his car from hitting their kid. And John Gotti's wife, Victoria, like went enraged with grief and went after him with a baseball bat. And then after, like, we see Gotti talking to his friends and they were like, is she okay? And he's like, I'm taking her to Florida. So he wasn't around when
so it was like an unsanctioned hit.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't catch that.
There's a theory that Gotti, for his wife, like, ordered the hit and then wasn't in town. He was in Florida with his family.
Yeah.
But that's just a theory. Like, honestly, and I don't know anything. I don't know the Gottis personally, obviously. But the fact that in the movie, and this could have been played for like a sympathetic edge, I don't know. But how Gotti was like, it was an accident, it happened.
Yeah.
You know, and he was like, my wife freaked out, I'm going to take her to the family. I feel like that was more so his, like, brother in having his back and being like, let's go fucking get this guy.
It just seemed like a strange move for made men who know you don't do unsanctioned hits to go and do that.
Yeah. But then again, Gotti wasn't in charge then. So, like...
I guess, but even Paul, because they were working for the Gambinos at this point, right?
Yes, but I don't think Paul was in charge yet, though, because
who was the boss then? Like the boss, whoever the boss was, the boss is the boss is the boss.
Because what
would have been like, what the fuck did you guys do?
Because what happened in real life that wasn't really touched on in this movie, but it was kind of like alluded at, was that the Gambino boss before Paul took over, had initially the underboss was Neil. That guy that ended up dying of cancer that was like...
Oh, right.
So the mentor to Gotti. He was the underboss, so he was supposed to be the next boss. And then the Gambino boss anointed Paul instead, which pissed off a bunch of the people in the mob because they were like, he hasn't, he hasn't been in the street. He hasn't worked his way up. Like, what the fuck? So I think during the timeline, the unsanctioned hit happened. That, I think, took place before Paul had taken over the Gambino.
Well, it's interesting that there was no backlash from a boss, whoever the boss was.
Yeah.
Oh, he wasn't like, well, had the boss take it when he got back and found out that it happened. There was no mention of that. I'm like, well, this is like...
That's a civilian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was unsanctioned, so that guy should have been killed, whoever did it.
Killed or shelved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that I was like, what the hell? Like, who did this? Why did it happen? And why is there no consequence for it?
Yeah.
This cinematography in this movie it irked me a lot. I didn't like there was a shot, he's having a conversation with Buddy, I think it was Angelo in the back actually. And the camera is behind the driver's seat looking up at him. So it almost looks like he's looking directly into the camera when he's delivering his lines to the guy behind the camera. And I was like, what? It just seemed like
forced trying to be artsy.
Yes.
And
yes. Like they were trying to be Scorsese, but they were just doing it wrong. A lot of shots in the movie, I was like, why did you choose that?
Yeah.
Just the way they frame stuff. Like even the one where when he's been locked up, he goes to the dentist, shoots that guy.
Yeah.
And then goes back. I'm like, I kind of like the way they had it framed up, but I'm like, why don't you add like a move down to the car or maybe go lower angles so you get more of the car? And that's just my filmography brain getting in there going like, frame that better. Fix that shot. What are you thinking?
Yeah,
so
that's a good point.
That was one big problem that I had with this movie. Because it was just, it could have been great. Yeah. But it lacked a lot.
And then they're talking outside and Neil's telling him about Sammy Gravano. And Gotti's like, do you trust him? I don't trust him. He's never done time. You never trust someone. And then he's like, no, like Frank's really sticking his neck out for him and vouching for him. Like, and we trust Frank. So, and Gotti was like, okay. That didn't work.
It was not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Fucking rat.
And then his son gets into a bar fight with his friends, and someone accidentally dies, and Gotti's freaking out, and he's like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Like, you dumbass!" And they had no idea that someone died.
Yeah.
Because
that whole fight scene too. Sorry to interject.
Chaotic.
That whole fight scene was chaotic, shot poorly. Looked like somebody
Very
shot.
dark.
It was bad, and the dialogue leading up to it, I was like, ugh.
I know,
So the writing in this movie was bad. A lot of it was bad. Some of the conversations, I was just thinking, like, what are you trying to do here?
right? Especially because I feel like being the eldest son of an affluent, prominent mobster, because he wasn't the boss yet, you'd think that he would, even though he wasn't in the life at that point, you think he would know, like,
Carry yourself a little better.
Yeah, I can't go around just scrapping.
Yeah.
And I can't, like, chirp at people for being annoying. And that's what it was. Like, this guy who wasn't named, we had no idea who he was. We didn't know if he knew John Gotti Jr. was John Gotti's son. And he's just like, "Oh, let me buy you a drink. Let me buy you a drink." And they're like, "No, like, we're fine." And then he kept, like, chirping and being like, "No, I'm going to buy you one. I'm going to buy you one." And then all of a sudden they were like,
He just threw a punch at him.
JGJ. That's what he is in my notes.
JGJ.
John Gotti Jr.
Jr.
He just decks him, and then it starts a brawl. Like,
Yeah, that escalated super quickly. And like I said, the dialogue leading up to it was garbage.
like I don't doubt that the fight happened. I just doubt that that's what started it. Like, in my mind, John Gotti Jr. probably decked him because he was being, like, disrespectful or something. Like, that behavior I can see, you know, if you're disrespecting the mob or the guy's dad. Yeah, but just being like, "I'm going to buy you a drink. I'm going to buy you," like.
Yeah, you would have tried to use a little more tact and go like, "Listen, pal.
Yeah.
We don't want him. Just go away.
Yeah.
Fuck off." And then one of his buddies was like, "You know who this guy is?
Oh,
It's
God.
fucking John Gotti Jr., bro.
Yeah.
Fuck off with your shots."
Yeah.
Maybe he's got a short fuse, but he didn't seem like that kind of person.
No.
At all
He
in
never
this.
once displayed that kind of behavior, like, throughout
No.
the whole movie.
Soft spoken. Seemed like the life was kind of what he wanted because his dad wanted
Yeah,
that.
because he loved his dad so much.
Yeah, it didn't seem like he wanted it at all. We saw that, like, you know, even I got the years were confusing at the end. How many years did he serve in
In
jail
total,
at the
he
end?
served 11.
Okay, he did say 11.
His plea was for 5 to 6. And then when he had his meeting with his dad, and his dad was like, "Don't sign a plea because as soon as they have you, they're not going to let you go."
So how many years was that at?
He was in prison at that point and got released to go see his dad for legal advice or whatever. Because, like I said, like, you could tell in prison that some of the guards were like this with Gotti.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know how many. He mustn't have been in jail or in prison for that long, because he had a plea bargain on the table. Like, plea bargains aren't offered up after a verdict has been reached and you're serving time. So he was probably, like, arraigned, put in prison before his trial, didn't make bail because his dad was in jail, so his dad couldn't post bail. And so he was probably waiting for a trial because he went to his dad, and his dad was like, "No, nothing's tying you to them. Like, go to trial." And he was like, "No, I just want to sign a plea and get my time over with." So starting there, he was probably in prison for a few months, maybe a year at the max.
So was this
because the prosecution is putting together their case?
Well, this is what confused me then, because if that's the case, he's been there he's been awaiting trial, but then at the end, was there like another flash forward 11 years?
Yeah.
Okay, they didn't fucking make that clear at all either.
I know.
All they do is they show, because what year was, like, it was 1999 he was awaiting trial then. Okay, John Gotti died in 2002.
Yeah.
That's 3 years.
Yeah.
They show him in jail, look, "Oh, John Gotti has died today."
And that's
then
his, like, third year in prison, so half of the sentence he was expecting.
Yeah, and then they don't, like, really explain to you that, oh, now it's been another 8 years. Like, what? He still looks the same.
I know, they just grayed his hair a bit.
And his wife still looked the same. And
I know.
as if, like, 11, I guess she's mob wife. She has to stay faithful, but fuck. 11 years.
I know.
I mean, like, listen, 3 years in, babe, you got 8 more years. We got to move on.
But that's the thing. He didn't know it was an extra 8 years because, like, fasting forward in the movie, his plea was for, like, 5 to 6, and he was like, I'll be out in 5 to 6. And then afterward, once John Gotti had died, and that's when, like, other big mobsters were going down in the Gambino family and in other families.
Yeah. Well, they tacked on like another 90 some years. Didn't they?
And then John Gotti Jr. was like, what the fuck? And then 6 years became 11. And then they were trying to tack on more time. And then that's when he started like fighting and appealing and got released after 11 years.
I feel like they didn't make that super clear in this movie.
No, God, no. They were just trying to tie it up fast. They were like, John Gotti's dead. Like,
I'm like, oh, you've done the research on this. I'm like, where are you getting all this info? I didn't see that. I didn't see that at all. It wasn't in there.
No, it wasn't.
So, yeah, this movie just skimmed over so much information.
This movie, remember a while ago, I was talking about how, when we watched G.I. Joe, and I said that G.I. Joe made me realize what I didn't realize when the Warcraft movie came out, and I know the lore and I enjoyed it, but Brandon isn't really into it, so he had no idea what was going on, and it was really confusing. This movie was like that too. Mm-hmm. Like, it was just speeding through some things and slowly going through other things, and like the timeline, aside from 99 and the 80s, it wasn't specific. And if you're just watching this because you're like, yeah, I've watched The Departed, I really like mob movies, you'd be confused watching this.
Yes, that was exactly me, because there were, I even, the first 20 minutes, there was a couple times I had to skip back because I would look away or lose focus for a second and go back and like, what the hell just happened? Yeah. I'm like, oh, that was important information. This was not a movie where you could be distracted by your phone at all, because you had to listen. There was every scene was just dialogue driven. Mm-hmm. So much dialogue. Like, I made a comment, so many names, because we find out like Willie's an informant next.
For 19 years, he was an informant.
And there's a scene where he's like,
so basically, like, majority of his mob career, he was an informant for the FBI.
He's sitting there telling young John Gotti an entire massive story. All this information that while his dad's sitting over there playing cards, and I'm like, what spurred this conversation? Mm-hmm. He just starts, let me tell you a story about your dad, and just tells him all this detailed information. I'm like, why are you doing this? He didn't ask. It's not a normal mob guy thing to do, I don't think, either sit there and fucking chat. Like, let me tell you all about your dad. And then like, here's everything. And like, you just assume that he already knows that. Yeah. He's a fucking mob guy's son. And then, so then we just jump right to Willie in court with John Gotti, and it's like, oh, he was an informant, that's why.
Yeah,
like,
which was...
and he's like, give me a pass, please give me a pass. He did not get a pass.
No. Fuck, honestly, were you expecting a pass? Really? You're an informant for 19 years, you think
he should have just
you're gonna get a pass?
And not freaked out.
Yeah.
And been like, it's all fucking bullshit, I'll tell you later.
Yeah.
Then the next scene after, like this, so they shoot him, and then it's, what's his name? Leo? Neil's funeral. Ooh, and such a quick shot there too. I'm like, who the fuck's funeral are they at? Yeah. So I had to skip back again, and I'm like, oh, it's a half-second long shot of Neil's face.
And that's what was the clincher in Gotti deciding Paul.
Well, yeah, because he'd been Castanello.
Paul Castanello had to go because, the underboss of the previous mob boss, and then the underboss of the current one died, and the mob boss didn't come to the funeral, which in my research was a big deal. Like,
he's like, obviously Paul sends his condolences.
Yeah,
like,
and
whoa, dude.
And then it shows Gotti and Neil before he died talking about how if you want to take Paul out, you need to get the approval of the other 4 families.
And that was the point where I'm like, holy shit, like, that's a lot. They're just naming, this guy will tell this guy, and this guy will talk to this guy, he'll handle these people, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, this is kind of neat, but I'm like, holy shit, it's a lot of fucking people.
Yeah.
And then I love when he's explaining, he's like, and then the 5 families make a fist. Yes. I'm like, who the fuck are they going to punch with it? I'm like, and the next scene, I'm like, oh, they're shooting Paul right out front of a hotel. I'm like, damn.
Right outside of the steakhouse restaurant. Like, that's the wild thing about the mob is like, that shit just happened, but it was controlled. It wasn't like a random act of like violence that regular psychotic shooters do where they're just like mowing down everybody. It's controlled.
If you're going to have crime, it better be organized
It better be controlled. Leave me out of it.
Yeah, there's some innocent people got killed now and then, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, but
Buried outside
never
Vegas.
intentional with the mob. It's so crazy because when John Gotti, after Paul was killed and he was elected like interim boss, he became this huge media tycoon. Like as a mob boss, like it was like, oh, the Dapper Don, the Teflon Don, the mob boss, John Gotti. You know, that wasn't happening with previous mob bosses. Like, and that's one thing that in my research, people in other families were kind of getting really annoyed. They were like, he's always in the fucking paper and on TV and like.
Well, it's because you look at photos of him, he was always smiling. Always looked like every photo I saw on Google was like, oh, he's always smiling. What the hell?
Even his mug, like his most famous mug shot, he was like,
fucking smiling.
Yeah.
So maybe he just had a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Charisma?
Yes.
Yeah.
More charisma than the rest. Well, it seemed like you never saw Paul in this movie at all.
The only time you did was at the steakhouse and he was like,
yeah, Paul ain't going to make it.
Yeah.
You didn't even see him, I don't think, like his face, did you? You just saw a body getting shot.
Yeah.
So I don't think they made it so they just didn't reveal him at all. Unless I missed that.
There was a brief shot of like his face like that in the car. The presence that John Gotti had, that was probably like the peak point where even civilians and people who weren't affiliated with the mob were like, yeah, he does a lot for the community. He's a nice guy. Because there were hundreds of people at his funeral procession.
Be weird. Like, wouldn't that be really? Just think about that for a second. What if there were some criminals in our area here on the peninsula that were like pumping money into everything, and we knew about it. We knew that they were murdering people, murdering other rival crime family. Like, just imagine if we lived among that.
I know.
That's crazy.
I know.
That's an insane thing.
Yeah.
Like, just like, oh, it just happens. It's just like, fuck, we're really lucky to not be like this. You know, you cross the wrong person, your dog gets its head chopped off. Like,
yeah. And that's like, that comes back to like Vegas with my like 60-year-old Uber driver being like, yeah, when Vegas was run by the mob, it was great. Like people were like, they do a lot for the community. They're okay in my book.
Yeah, it's just wild to think that there's people that live in places like that. Yeah. And like the kind of person that just has to turn a blind eye to it too and go, you know, it's cool. They do a lot for the community. It's like, well, you're allowing murder and you're cool with it. That's another fucked up part of all this. Yeah. So that's man, I'm glad I don't live in a place like that. I don't know how I would feel about it.
I know, right?
If it was like happening down the street.
Yeah.
Oh, they killed another bad person, but they only kill bad people. It's like, were they Dexter? Like it's messed up. Okay, hour in, we see Chin. He's playing Insanity. Oh, and I'm like, oh, back to 99 again?
Yeah, and then Chin is like, we know that they, like the group of them, had a deal in killing Paul because Paul and Chin were really close. That's why Chin wasn't part of Gotti going to him and asking.
They said he will just follow suit, though.
So Chin ordered a hit on Frankie, who was like beloved by Gotti and Neil before he died.
Oh, yeah, that's
who
right.
brought
blew
in Sammy. Yeah, blew his car up, which apparently bombs are not a thing that the mob appreciates or does.
Like, we don't do bombs, we don't do this, we don't kill innocents, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that in retaliation made Ange
put the hit out on gas pipe.
On gas pipe because gas pipe was the one who did the bomb. But then the hit on gas pipe fails and he only gets like clipped in the arm and the leg and he lives. I'm pretty sure the first, like probably one of the first rules of being in the mob is make sure your hit is dead.
Oh, yeah. Just drive away.
Yeah.
You know it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. And it does. He gets caught, hung up, shot, executed after he gives up a name. Really easily, I might add.
Yeah, like he starts off and he's like, I won't tell you, I'll never tell you. And then he shoots him in the dick. And then there's no blood. Like, there's no bleeding. No. And I was like, what the fuck?
I thought he shot him in the leg. Because I'm like, if he shot him in the dick, he'd be screaming. screaming.
I thought he shot him in the dick because A, that's what it looked like he aimed with, and B,
I thought he shot him in the thigh.
They would have
Just
shown it,
looked like he just pointed down and shot under his waist.
But that's...
I had no way thought, oh my God, he just shot him in the dick.
See, I thought that because when they showed like the assassination of Paul, they showed like bullet here. Like they didn't shy away from showing like guys being shot in the head. So why would they not show him being shot in the leg? That's why I thought
I did
shot
not
him in
think
the dick.
that at all. I did not for a second go, oh my God, he shot him. I just thought he pointed at his leg and shot him in the leg and was like, I can make this pain stop. If you shot him in the dick, you're liable to pass out because it's a major fucking artery. True. It's a lot. You would be pumping blood so fast you wouldn't be able to fucking think.
True.
You'd bleed to death in like a minute.
True.
That would be my thought. That's why I thought he shot him in like the leg off the side from the artery.
There.
Off the side though, just grazed them or shot in the meat because if you shoot right in the like towards I don't know where the fucking artery is.
But then you could hit your femur and that would hurt even more. Your femur is the large. We're like where'd he get shot?
Welcome to Health Talk, where the best place to get shot is.
Either way, there was no blood.
Yes.
And then if a mobster is saying to you, I can make it go away.
You know he's gonna shoot you.
Yeah, you know you're fucking dead. So
he's gonna kill you.
Why would you give up the name anyway? Like,
yeah, because he was he was an idiot.
Yeah,
I don't know who this guy was, but he was an idiot. He missed his hit, and then he got caught really easily, and then gave up the name. I love this scene. Johnny he's a made man now.
Yeah.
And I love this scene. He's like, this is the proudest moment of my life. And he's like, look at us. Look at us. I'm like, oh, this is so cheesy. Like, even that, I'm like, you guys like, the family signed off on that? It just seems so cheesy.
Well,
because it's usually just yeah.
Because even, like, from what I've seen and heard about, like, Italian families, like, they're so close and they're so, like...
See, this is what's going to get me shot.
Passionate with each other that, like, to me, yeah, I don't think that exact thing happened, but I have no doubt that John Gotti Sr. was like, this is the proudest moment of my life.
Yeah, I
like,
guess.
You're here. I don't think it was like hammed up that much.
Yeah, it just felt super fucking cheesy from a viewer standpoint.
But I have like every time I saw them like interacting and like him grabbing him by the neck and just doing like right here, I'm like, that's 100%
Italian.
Real. Yeah.
So now we'll go right to his wedding. He's getting married. I'm like, holy shit, this movie's just jumping all over the place.
Right.
And then blah, blah, blah. Gotti gets indicted a fifth time. Gets locked up this time because fucking, what's his face there? Rats.
Oh, yeah. Sammy. He turns
5
on
life
him.
sentences. I don't know why I don't know why they're like, we sentence you to 12 life sentences and each one's 25 years. Just say life sentence. It's life.
Yeah.
That's
one thing.
You get life.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't understand is like, 5 consecutive life sentences. I'm like, he's not going to live 5 times. No,
it just seems like, well, you're not going to live 125 years from now on.
Yeah. Can you imagine the big fuck you to like someone who gets 5 life sentences?
164 bitches.
Like, I made it.
How was he still alive? Yeah. Just robot parts. So now everybody get murdered after this. Families start getting shot up. Everybody starts getting arrested. No, they're not getting arrested yet. Because the son gets... Oh, yeah, maybe there. I don't know.
Right?
Because like it just goes shit, boom, boom, boom. People getting shot, arrested, and then it's like, oh, and now the son is the boss because he's like, stand down, motherfuckers. My father says, still in charge when my father says goes. And I'm like, all right, fine, we'll stand down. And he's the boss, and he gets arrested. Now we're like, oh, now we've come full circle from the start.
And the one thing, like when he got arrested at his home.
Well, there were like 30 FBI agents.
Yeah.
So excessive.
It looked like he had a son and a daughter. But then when he gets released, there were 2 boys there. Well, and I'm like.
There were a bunch of unknown characters. I didn't know Gotti had a son named Peter.
Yeah.
If he mentions him at the end, you're like, oh, what? Where's he been through for the whole story?
Oh, no, that's his brother.
I thought it said son. Is his brother?
He had, John Gotti had many siblings, and his brother Peter took over leading the mob.
He was calling him Pa, though. He was sitting at his side going, what do we do, Pa? What do we do? I had the fucking subtitles on.
Oh, he had a son named Peter, too. But
yes!
But his his brother Peter is the one who took over.
Well, I'm talking about the kid who was in the fucking hospital room with him when he was dying of cancer. Like, I didn't know he had a son. They didn't mention him at all during this movie. And all of a sudden he's like, my son Peter stayed with me. I'm like, what?
That was probably the really young one that was friends with Frankie when Frankie was killed when he was 12. And Peter was 10.
Even that, like that whole section of the movie is like 2 minutes long. Just, you don't get into anything here. I did love how like all those FBI agents break in there. Then there's just a random shot of like 3 of them standing outside, like having a smoke or something. I'm like, what is the director thinking? It was like a cheesy wannabe Scorsese movie. That even the end where everybody's getting shot. It was like the end of Goodfellas or the end of fucking like just. Music playing, but it was a shitty. The soundtrack was garbage.
That's what I said. My next note, I was like, I'm not loving the soundtrack. It's not fitting the theme or the atmosphere of the movie at all.
No, it was a bad soundtrack.
Well,
it was like they paid Travolta too much money. They couldn't afford to spend money on decent music.
They didn't. The soundtrack guy was Pitbull, Mr. Worldwide.
Really?
Yeah. In my trivia, the soundtrack guy was Pitbull because he was like, John Travolta's on. I really want to do the soundtrack. The song at the very end, at the song in the credits is the one that sounds the most authentic, and it only lasts for 30 seconds, and then it turns into a shitty rap by Pitbull.
No, that's Sean Paul. This is still terrible.
And I'm like, is Pitbull? It's
Pitbull. Oh my God. No wonder it was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the son ends up getting out after 11 years.
Ooh.
And then was
after fighting it. And the prosthetics they used on John Travolta when he was Gotti in prison in 1999 looked really good. Like when he was talking and emoting, they weren't like stiff. Like they were moving with the authentic movement of his mouth and his face. So I did appreciate that.
Then the snippet at the end though. You're never going to meet someone like me if you live to be 5,000.
Yeah.
And he leaves. I'm going to get so whacked for this.
Well,
I was like, why? Why did you bother with the end?
If he genuinely said that and it was like on his deathbed or something, don't make it young him breaking the fourth wall.
No, just have that as a voiceover at the end. You're never going to meet someone like me.
Or if that was like one of the last things he said, put in quotes at the end of the movie because they did like...
a bunch of stuff after that. They're like, this happened. All those people that testified and shit got let out, which is fucked up.
I know.
Then it's the whole thing, right?
Like don't cheapen it. But yeah, don't cheapen it and be like, you're never going to meet another guy like me if you live to 5,000.
Yeah,
like,
just even the way, I don't know. Like you said, maybe that's the way he said it. I don't know. I don't want to criticize because I don't want to get shot. But that was Gotti.
Yeah.
It was better than I expected.
It was.
Better than I expected, but not as good as it could have been.
Oh, it could have been great.
Could have been really good.
And there have been a lot of movies about John Gotti made from like the 60s until this is the most recent one, I think. I don't know.
2018, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know which one is the best one, which one is the best ratings. Didn't look into it. But you would think that, like, a perfect example of what I'm trying to convey is the Bradley Cooper A Star Is Born that came out this past year.
Still haven't seen it.
4 or 5 remakes has it been, and this is like number 5. And this one was really good. And I would expect that if you're going to remake a movie or make a movie about a historical figure or a person in history that's been done at least 5 times already, I would think that you would make it the best one that's been released.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's all that comes down to who directs it, who's in it, who the supporting actors are, who the lead actor is. It's a combination of so much stuff. And you just put it in the hands of the wrong person without someone beside them going, hold on, let's change this a little bit. Then it's doomed. They
were on the right track with having Gotti's oldest children on as creative directors and using Gotti's clothing and accessories and using John Travolta. Surprise, surprise. He was the
best part of this movie.
Yeah.
He was.
And I also really liked the fact that aside from John Travolta, I didn't really recognize any other actor in this movie, which for me kind of made it more like real.
Yeah. It seemed like a lot of the B-list mob movie guys, though. That's what I was thinking. Like
Yeah.
you watch something like The Departed. It's fucking so good. Goodfellas, so good. Casino, so good.
The Godfather.
Yeah, and you watch this, so you're like, yeah, man, I don't know. The casting could have been a little better. I don't know. What do you rate this?
I wrote down my rating this time.
Ooh.
I rate this 6 John Travolta wigs out of 11 John Gotti cologne smeared jackets.
Ooh.
Because I like the fact that they used his kids and they used his clothes, like I said. But the soundtrack, the pacing, and the storytelling was not good. And yeah.
I'm going to give this 5 over ears out of 10 over this.
Oh,
right down the middle, because Travolta surprised me. He did a great job.
Yeah.
And I feel like had he had a better director and a few better supporting actors and just a little more character development, maybe slow the story down a little bit, let some of those scenes breathe.
Yeah.
It would have, and cut out this silly breaking the fourth wall off the top of tail. You don't need those.
100%. Get rid of it.
Yeah, just make it a little less jumping all over the place. Just a little more cohesive
More
storyline.
streamlined.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would have made it better for me.
So better.
But I'm going to give it a half, right down the middle.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
What?
I just watched the first one on the weekend.
What?
Pacific Rim Uprising.
It's on Netflix too!
I know it is. I started watching it as background sound the other day, and I was like, I wonder if that'll be on. Yes, that's hilarious. Pacific Rim 2 next week, folks.
I was going to do the first one because I love it. You hate it. But
Gotta wait for Tyler.
Yeah, we have to save it for Tyler so he can sit here and be like, yeah, Katie, you're right.
I have to have someone else over here. You know what, though? I'd hate to
watched
admit
it.
this. It's better than I remembered, but still, there are still so many parts that just made me go, ugh.
Oh, I love it.
This is so silly.
You know what's funny? When you were sending me a Snapchat of you watching it, the part you were watching was the part that Brandon, one of his brothers, Nick, and I always quoted to each other. It was the part where the guy in the purple is at the desk and he's like, man's got to do what a man's got to do, brother. We always quote that to each other.
Man's got to do what a man's got to do, brother.
Eats the last cookie. Man's got to do what a man's got to do, brother. I'm so excited. Because this one, I don't like.
Well, maybe I'll like it then.
Oh, maybe. Then the three of us will have a lot of stuff to argue about.
Should be good. It'll be fun. Tune in next week, everybody. With that said, bye.
Bye.
This is Real Garbage.